Welcome back to Topics in Management. We are discussing today HR, human resource management, related to yourself and related to managing people. I understand you have class read or gone through the book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. Nobody? What they are basically saying is the old-fashioned business model of planning for 20 years to do something is out of date. Now, everybody's living online. You're dating online. You're working online. Everything can be done in seconds, let alone minutes. If you want food, you can order online. It can be delivered. In Korea, it could be delivered in just a few minutes. If you want dating, you can get a date in less than 1 minute. Try Tinder or Grindr, whatever those programs are. And the same thing with businesses. You can find factories easily online, or just look through Alibaba or eBay, and there's a lot of websites that introduce wholesalers so you can find the products, and then you can make a free website like Facebook page and say you have this, or you can modify this. Is anybody interested in it? And you can promote it to your community, and people will start to ask for it from you. What the book 4-Hour Workweek is saying is that you can say, okay, I don't have any more now. If you give a deposit, you will be the next customer on the list to be delivered to. So you just pay 50% now and then 50% upon the delivery. And then the 4-Hour Workweek author is saying you can use money to pay the factory to make it and send it to them. So it actually costs you nothing. You're just introducing organizations, being an agent. And so that's one idea. You need to research things well. Just like you're going to invest in the stock market, you shouldn't invest your money in a company without knowing all of the details. You need to know everything about the product and how stock can be manipulated by other people. For example, the legal community. And if you say you have something for sale, but you don't, in some countries, that is illegal. So you need to know the ethics. You need to know the details of wherever you're going to be selling. But some people are doing it online very profitably. The whole idea of Amazon and eBay are based around this. So start thinking about your stairs, your steps to success, and your long-term goals. Do not wait like people did back in the caveman era. Don't wait to graduate and then try to get a job. Start getting higher and raise your steps closer towards your success each day, every day. Your classwork should be helping you. And what we were talking about, when you're going to be presenting, usually this is the formally accepted, most popular way in the social sciences. So management, business people, when they present an introduction, background literature, methods, results, conclusion, and you have to have very good referencing, and the referencing has in-text and full referencing. And then once you're finished this, you need to have the abstract summary. So Arthur and Adrian, when you guys were talking about your information, I'm not sure if you were clear, so I just want to clarify. When you have more of your work ready, usually after it's finished, then you summarize what you found. And you're teaching only the executive summaries of what you found. You do not say, I'm going to talk about social media. I'm going to talk about how it changes the world. That is not an abstract. You say, it changed the world 3,000% in 1999 alone because of this. So it's an actual finding. And usually you also talk about your research style. Any questions? Does anybody want to go through what exactly is an abstract or intro, background literature, methods? I'm an old man. I've been working with HR with many different companies, with many, many different countries, more than I can count now. And so for me, it's common sense. I think everybody knows this. But I have learned a lot of people sometimes don't have the same experience I do. Malik, can you explain what background literature is?
Yes, like the background, like how the company developed, or like what they did in past, like the how they grow their company. So just like that,
Okay,
data
good.
author.
Any
Yes.
comments from the rest of the class? There's slight differences. Maybe I'm a PhD geek, but what I heard, the words you said, is you're talking about, for example, Arthur is going to research how Samsung uses social media for influencing people or something. And so you were saying the background literature is talking about the background of Samsung and how Samsung got into social media. But academically, research wise, it's not just the background of the company, it's the background of what other world experts are saying and researching. So the background literature, I have designed it so that we usually have 10 weeks of serious classes. And so each week you should find one article. Should be very easy. And then you share that. So now we are finishing week 4. We're getting into week 5. You should have close to 5 reliable research articles. And so one researcher says number 1, another researcher says 2, 3, 4, 5. That is what the background is showing you so far. And to get into a little bit more detail, what you should be trying to find is what the famous writers are saying. So whoever's the founder of social media, or whoever is the founder of social media analytics or dropship business plans, whoever's the founder of that or the first researcher of that, you can reference that person together with other authors that are also pretty significant in that area. That's the background of the literature, not just the company. When you're talking about the company, that might be just an introduction. So you're probably trying to teach something new related to a theory, not just a company or a very specific idea. Any other questions? Can somebody help me talk to the class and clarify, how do you do referencing? If ideally the best students are going to do background literature or just research all the time, and you find a new article every week, how do you record that? How do you write it down? Anybody?
On the paper, you mean?
Yes. How do you reference properly?
It depends. There's a lot of type of referencing, but APA style, I use it.
Good. What
Uh,
exactly is APA style?
you can find it on Microsoft Word. That's usually a way to put the name of the article, the name of the author, and I think the date, and then you can put it on the text. So we just find I don't know if it's only the name of the article, but you find it in the text, and then you can put the text in your bibliography or in your
Ulugbeck, you
appendix.
look like, and Julie, you look like you are seeing what is flashing on my screen, right? You see what I'm flashing? Can you help tell us, Ulugbeck, what am I saying here? It's not just the author. What else?
So that's the title, then everything.
Yes. So the author, the year that author wrote that information, the title of that author, the title of that journal or the company or the magazine or the blog. Then you can talk about the page numbers if you want. And then, because everybody is now working online, if you're getting the online information, you should also share the exact website. Or since websites can be very long, it's more professional to share the DOI. The DOI is just a short form for the web address. So all of this is what you need at the end of your story. But what else? We're still missing something. People would not publish you if you only did that. In some classes, you would fail if you only did that. Gulkano, yes?
Alphabetical order. We need
I couldn't hear what you said. Can you say that again, please?
alphabetical order. ABC. Can you hear me?
I can hear you mumbling, not clearly. Can anybody else hear? I think I heard her say author, but do I sound clear? Does this sound better? What is this?
In-text citation next to
Yes. In-text referencing. So every time you use a name, every time you use a date or a number or an idea, or definitely when you use a sentence you got from somebody else, anytime you use any idea you got from somebody else, you need to put the author's name and the year they wrote it right next to it in the same paragraph. If you don't, that's plagiarism. Surprise, surprise, the universities have been using plagiarism detection software for a long time, but this university is now building into some copycat killer, a new plagiarism software. So anything students submit will automatically be checked. And I think the university is saying anything more than 15% similar will be rejected and not even marked. So please be aware of that. Anywhere you get things, put the author and the name, that's the in-text, and then in full at the end, just what we were talking about. Any other questions about what is the abstract, the intro, background, literature, methods, results, conclusion, or referencing? No?
Question, but I just have a personal story to share. So I think when you're trying to do the reference or you trying to do a term paper or a research or anything that you write, you need to have a reference because in the end your work will be checked by Turnitin program, and if we find out that you what's the word?
If you have similarity with other things that have been published or put online anywhere in the world,
it's going
to have
be
similarities.
A problem, a very big problem, because I didn't know that, so I almost failed my subject last semester. So I think you guys should be aware.
She's studying in Australia, and in Australia there's a strict rule: any publication, plagiarism, any similarities to others, you automatically fail. Now, Gregoire, would you be able to comment about that? How could you have similarities without a problem? Or how should you have similarities without a problem?
I don't know.
Anybody? I'm highlighting it here.
References.
References. Everybody is supposed to do the same thing. So if you find a famous story and you reference it, anybody else in the world that also reference it, that reference will be the same. So if you reference a lot, you're going to have a lot of things similar to other people. So there are cases where some people had 30% references similar to others, and it's still acceptable. It's okay. But the university policy is usually saying we should strive for less than 10%. And so they're making this Turnitin. If it's over 15%, I might not even be able to see your paper when you try to turn it in through that system. So be aware of those details. Usually it's not an issue for the referencing if it's similar. If you want, I can show you articles. Last semester, somebody wrote an article similar to Arthur's group. They were talking about social media, but they're talking about, surprise, fake news. And when they showed the fake news, their whole article was copied from like 5 other stories. Like the first paragraph copied, second paragraph copied, and the whole thing. And so their fake news report was fake, so they failed. Don't do that. Present in class before your week 7 or week 6 so we can talk about it. Thank you very much for starting to share your information, Arthur. And for the rest of you, we are getting back into this idea of outsourcing. So we started talking about how you can coordinate human resources. I showed that stairway to your dreams. You should be planning to develop that each day, not only starting 6 months or 6 years later. The idea that you can be recruiting, selecting, developing, counseling, rewarding employees and staff, and yourself as a worker. So human resource functions relate to you each day. There's many different aspects of it, like orienting and training employees. Like you should be thinking about that in class. We're talking about how you partner with somebody else. These partners on term projects are no different than a staff or another partner that you work with. We started to talk last class about Black Lives Matter, and we skipped over Me Too. We started to talk a little bit about gender inequality. I'd like to hear a little bit more about this Me Too movement or the gender ideas, but what should you be aware of? The whole concept of the students saying social media is changing. People can start getting $1 million from making videos nowadays. That's changing in life. So the world is changing. But the world is also changing with HR management, with globalization. So how should you be aware that the world is changing with HR management and globalization? Any comments from anybody?
Because I think like nowadays, people from all over the world are trying to work with each other, and if you don't understand other cultures, you cannot just work without understanding. So I think that's why we need to be aware of that.
Okay. Anybody else wants to talk about how the world is changing with globalization? The idea that most people go to school, go to university or college and try to get a job for life. And especially in Asia and Japan and Korea, most people don't try to get a job until they have graduated from university. Many people in Korea, their very first job ever will be when they're maybe 26 or 30, especially if they're going through for graduate school. Is there something changing with globalization related to that?
May I say?
No, you may not. Of course.
I just want to explain the very simple words. So I think that everywhere is being standardization, standard things, globalization. So everything is the same words, same things.
So every country is almost the same.
Going to be the same.
Going to be the same. There is a trend towards similarities. Okay, that's one aspect. How does it relate to HR? How does it relate to workers? Is anybody aware of what is a trend with CEOs? The idea in Korea and Japan, many people used to hear of lifelong employment. What are the current global 500 CEOs focused on for employment now? Are they still offering lifelong employment? Laura, Yanis, Yekovir, Yebin, any of you? Are you aware what the big companies are doing, not just planning anymore? How long is a typical CEO looking to hire a new employee for?
For short term, because nowadays people like changing job a lot. So I think it can be a problem when you start hiring somebody. You need to be aware that they wouldn't work with you in long term.
Okay, short term, some people think short term is 5 years, 10 years. Long term is 100 years. Being specific helps. What exactly do you mean? Can anybody help expand on that? Julie, your mic's not working, right? So Eloise, are you aware of how long a lot of the Fortune or the global 500 company CEOs when they are telling HR to plan to hire new people. 50 years ago, it was lifelong employment. That's what the CEO would tell HR. But what is the normal term now?
I don't know. I don't really know.
Can you take a
it's
guess?
10 years.
Sorry, Zanigar?
Maybe it's 10 years because a lot of things are like changing day by day. So I think maybe it's like up to 10 years, from 5 to 10. Lifelong is kind of seems impossible right now.
Right. Thank
I
you
would say
for
less.
helping the class with that. Actually, can somebody help her, or Zanigar, would you like to guess again? It's actually, it's actually
say-
much lower,
5 years.
Yeah,
less than 5 years,
I would say 2 to 3 years,
less than 2 years,
6
1
months.
year,
less than 6 months.
2
Most
months.
CEOs are telling department managers and
1 week.
HR to break projects down into a specific task and get the task done. And that task should be less than 6 months. So they're offering contracts that are not full-time employees, so they don't have to pay the insurance, they don't have to pay the long-term welfare, things like that, and they're just paying for that project. And if the person's good, they can get another project and another project and another project. And so the idea of lifelong employment, it may disappear in my lifetime, well before the end of your lifetime. So start realizing the idea of going to university, graduating, and then getting a job forever, that may be disappearing before you even graduate. So start seriously planning to be your specialist, be a consultant to sell your services or sell your TikTok videos promoting something or your YouTube promoting something. Start doing that now. It could make you very successful. Next, I showed this video before last class about the diversity within yourself. I believe everybody saw this. It was about a Korean person that was brought up partly in Argentina, and then they were brought up for several years in the United States. And then their husband, I believe, is from Belgium, but they are Korean. So they worked in Korea for a while. And so they were identifying the idea of diversity. Nowadays, 2021, people are prejudiced. Some people are very prejudiced. There's been a lot of news that are related to problems about racism and prejudice. But usually those small-minded people are focused on people from one area or one country. Well, how would you describe a person that lived 5 years in Argentina, 5 years Korea, 5 years USA, 5 years Belgium? How do you describe that person? What nationality are they? What race are they?
Multinational?
Okay, good. Can you say, they relate to Black Lives Matter? Can you say that there's gender issues? Some of these stereotypes that are obstacles are even getting out of date nowadays. Almost everybody in this course, everybody in this class, you were probably from one city in one country, but you're studying with people from a different country. I'm from Canada, and many of us are in Korea, and many of us are maybe in Europe or in some parts of Eastern Europe or other countries in Asia right now. How do you describe you? Arthur, what is your race or background or culture?
Oh, I'm a big mixed. I'd say I'm French and Portuguese, so I'm multicultural, but I think I'm an international person. I speak 4 languages. I lived in France and Portugal.
So you've been living in France for a while, Portuguese for a while. What was the other country?
No, there's the two countries. I lived in Portugal like from the beginning of my childhood until my 6-7 years old, and I grew up then in France.
And now you're growing up in Korea.
Yeah, but they're just not for a while. They're just 4 months.
Sure. That's what some people say, and then they're here for 40 years. What about when you're hired? What kind of employment condition do you want? France is famous for HR. Either Arthur or Julie or any of our group from France, can you talk to us? What is the typical French HR environment or rules or ethics? Why is France famous?
I think France is evolving because nowadays we have a lot of startups that are growing up in France. So I wouldn't say that's the same model that it was like 10 years ago. So that's a bit difficult to give a precise answer about HR in France. I don't know for the other people from France, but that's my advice.
Okay, Gregoire?
I think France might be different because we have a lot of rule concerning employment, such like contract and everything. If you're working more than 6 months for a company, you have to be hired as a long-term contract. So you are sure getting a job and keeping this job, even if you're not doing.
You do realize, Gregoire, that what you're saying is law in something like more than 80 countries. So are you talking about Korea because that's the law in Korea? Or are you talking about even Canada, USA? It's not just France, right? Is there something more specific about France? Like, why is France famous? For example, what Gregoire just said, Korea is the same. So French has those laws and Korea has those laws. Because I am married to a Korean, I've been here longer than 3 years in Korea, legally, I am equivalent to a Korean. I don't need to have immigration approval. I can just come and go. I can work for any company just like a Korean can. And I think Gregoire was saying that's the same in France. But Korea is not famous for their working conditions. France is. But they're very, very different. Yanis?
Yes, I would say in France there is the culture and there is a path through the world know us. So it's why maybe we are more in the worldwide thing. Korea is new to open in this world, I think.
Can somebody help me translate what he was saying? I am so much of a PhD geek. I'm looking for each dot in the O. So I saw some issues. Gregoire, can you explain?
I think I think I know what you want us to say, but I think we are famous for the 36 hours per week. This is what you're saying.
That's part of it. Yanis, is that what you were talking about? France, I think what Yanis was saying is France is famous because they've been doing HR the same way for many, many years. And Korea has been changing and only really started in the last 50 years. So while France has hundreds of years of work styles that are similar, Korea just has 50 years. And each of the 10 years, it keeps changing. Okay, is that what you were saying, Yanis?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and yes, France is famous for the idea of working less than many other countries in the world. That's correct. Whether it's 34 or 36 or even lower. Any idea of what is another country that has longer work hours? Where in the world has the highest work hours per week? Any ideas?
This is not the USA or Canada, maybe.
I think that's Japan.
It can
We can't hear you, Zarnigar. Okay, good guess. Canada, USA is a good guess. Usually,
now.
Great Britain, maybe?
Not easily. Usually in Canada, it's just a 5-day work week. So Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 is popular in Canada, USA. What countries work more than Monday to Friday?
Yes, maybe Professor in Japan, Korea.
Japan and Korea, a lot of people work Monday to
Yes.
Saturday.
Or China too, so.
China for sure, yes. Any other countries?
Vietnam.
India maybe too.
I heard Vietnam. Yeah, Vietnam, they usually
Uzbekistan,
work. Uzbekistan,
Asian
Vietnam,
country, all Asian country. It's more
almost
faster
all
now.
Asian countries,
Yes.
yes, they're working
Yes,
Monday
Indian
to
too.
Saturday. Depending on where you are, some countries are developed and rich, and you only have to work every second Saturday, not every Saturday, but it depends on the job. And there are places where the owner of a company can require a facial photo or a body photo, and they can require what is your religion, how tall are you, what is your weight, what is your hobbies, what is your religion. They can't ask those questions in Canada and USA. I actually was invited, I'm from Canada, I was invited to be a professor for some classes back in Canada, even though I'm from that city, and they wanted to hire me. When I gave my resume, I didn't realize it's the Asian resume, and it has my photo and it has my date of birth on it. And so I was disqualified. Because I gave that, now they have personal relationship with me, maybe I'm disqualified. So what's it like in other countries? In France, are you allowed to put a photo on your resume?
Yeah.
Yes, we are,
we
but we
need
don't
to.
have to.
You're allowed, but you don't have to. So a company
That's-
cannot require you to give it.
That's
Yeah,
not
but
mandatory, but
the majority want a picture.
yeah.
The
Actually, I
majority want
think
a picture.
several years ago, there is a law which was saying like we don't have to put a picture on our CV.
We don't
because, like,
have to, but you are more chance when you put one.
Yes, right. So yes, be aware of those type of things. Well, how does it impact you guys? Most of you are students. Am I strange? Am I really old for thinking that when I was 15 years old, I basically left my home, was in university, and I had my own job paying for university, my apartment, my car at 15 years old? And my kids laugh at me, Dad, ha, you're joking. That doesn't exist. How many people here have had jobs or are working now? I only see one, Gregoire.
Being at school.
At your age, before you
Yeah.
have graduated.
When I was 15, I used to teach students English, like little kids.
Okay, in Korea, that's very popular. A lot of people can get easily 10, 20, 30. Some people are getting $150 an hour teaching English to kids. Yes?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yes, me. I work for since 4 years in company in France. His name is Auchan. It's like market, and I manage one thing like multimedia and telephone and phone phone thing.
Okay, so you were basically answering calls and answering social media requests and things like that. Okay.
Oh, and as well, by the way, when I was 19, before coming to Korea, I worked as an accountant for 1 year to English Teaching Language Center.
Okay, working as an accountant. What about how many of you have hired somebody else? I remember. Okay, could you tell us more details, Zarnigar? How did
Yeah.
you hire somebody, and how would you recommend somebody today to consider hiring somebody? That's the
Yeah,
biggest
so-
focus I want to focus on today.
The place I worked was a new business, so I had to stay with the director to develop it. So I had to do a lot of things at the same time, like managing the whole center and doing the accounting at the same time. So I had to be a receptionist and librarian and the job hirer at the same time. So mostly the manager. And then I had to hire teachers and some other people for the jobs like librarian and accountant. So we had to look for their like their study and teaching. For librarian, we mostly searched for multi-language speaker because that's what they wanted for the librarian speak. And I also searched for receptionist for someone who is kind and outgoing with people so that they can get people to study in our center. Yep.
Okay, Yebin, I see that you said something about freelancer. Can you talk about that? Maybe this website will help explain. What do you know about freelancer, Yebin?
I was saying that when you were explaining, company hires a project and for 6 months project they hire people and they ask people to do, and if a person can do it well, another project can be that seems like a freelancer. So I
Yes,
just started.
yes, that's exactly what we were talking about. But at the same time, freelancer.com, you can see on my screen here, this is a famous website. Can you start by reading what it is, Ms. Park?
Now,
Sure.
read it right now.
Yes, please.
Yeah, what it is, freelancer.com is a global outsourcing marketplace, very similar in function to Upwork, which allows potential employers to post jobs that freelancers can then bid to compete. Ooh.
Great. Has anybody used this online sources to hire anybody or to try to get jobs yourself?
I do several times on Upwork, and I think it's a really good website for both employers and employee. Sometimes it's most of the time it will be online job, and it got paid really well. And one time I got lucky, and I did actually get an offline job for a financial company. And overall, I think it's a really good website if you want to get it.
Okay, so she's talking about Upwork. And again, I was working a long time ago with elance.com, but Elance and Odesk have now combined, merged to become Upwork. And so that idea, what we're talking about is here. Outsourcing is a business practice in which companies hire third parties to perform tasks, handle operations, or provide services. And it's growing in popularity. The idea of lifelong jobs is shrinking. So they're being replaced by each other. Upwork, it says, is the leading in hiring of freelancers and remote tracking software. They say they have more than 12 million registered freelancers, workers, and more than 5 million customers or companies hiring them. It posts 3 million jobs and over $1 billion worth of work each year. So just this one website is going through $1 billion a year just introducing people. And the idea of freelancer, what Yebin Park was talking about, that is the same thing. It's very similar to Upwork, which allows potential employers to post jobs that freelancers can bid on. And so every one of us in our class, we have to research a topic and we have to write something for our class. So if I say, okay, I want somebody to research something for me to do this and write something for me, how much do you want for it, Arthur? You're the first to bid. And then Zarnigar, I'll take a bid from you. And Eloise, how much would you guys think would take the bid? Let's start with what you think is your value. Arthur, what do you think? Or Gregoire, what would you think is your value just to research and write our term paper? Arthur, Gregoire, either one of you? Anyone in class?
Yeah, but I don't know precisely how much I'm worth, sorry. So I'd say like in my former job, which is my job in Paris, I'm paid like $12 an hour or a bit more. So I would say this price, this amount,
So you want to be paid $12 an hour to write a term paper. Any idea how
at
many
least.
hours it would take to write a term paper?
I would say 20 hours, 30 at least.
Okay. Okay. Gregoire, any modification for you?
Yeah, this kind of job can be well paid, but like a paper, like how big this paper should be? Like, for example, a thesis, I would say like the price in France for
term
making it.
paper.
Huh?
Our class paper. You
I
were
would say
supposed to be an
200
expert
euro
in
for
it.
the whole paper.
Sorry?
200 euro for the whole paper.
So almost the exact same thing that Arthur was saying. Arthur was saying $12 an hour, 20 hours, that equals $240. Gregoire would cut the job away from Arthur and he'd do it for $40 cheap, 40 euro cheaper. So 240 euro versus 200 euro. Do we hear a better offer? Yebin, are you putting your hand up? Are you bidding? What would you bid? Where is home for you, Yebin? And what do you think you should charge for doing this, just a simple class paper? You were supposed to do it here.
150.
150. Okay, so Gregoire lost the job. Arthur lost the job. You guys are unemployed. Yebin is going to write the papers for everybody. Do you guys agree? What is the next step? Lugbek, Vincent, Malik, Eloise, all of you. Is that the wisest decision? We just hire Yebin? What do we need to think about with HR management?
No, I don't think it's the right way. Normally, people will be looking at the level of the employees. So, for example, they have three level on Upwork. They have beginner, intermediate, and like more experience. So that three level, and the pay is depend on the level of your.
Okay, come on. Somebody help me argue. Who's going to be on my side? I want a shit disturber. I want a troublemaker. I want a devil's advocate just to practice arguing with people. You guys in class, everyone except one or two people, you try to get the job and hire somebody, and we are going to say what's a problem with it. So somebody join me, but just to respond to Hua, you said you can say that you're a beginner or an intermediate or advanced level. Who's to test? Who's to judge? Of course, Yebin's going to say she's advanced. Look, she's professional. She has a mask. I'm not even wearing a mask. So she's more professional than me. How can you test that?
You will have a profile and you put every your experience and qualification on it, and they will verify that. And based on that, they decide your level.
Gregoire, you are in the video right next to Hua. Can you be my partner and can you help argue? How could people cheat that system? How could companies have a problem if they just look at the resume and the resume says they're advanced and an expert and lots of experience?
Should we then just all reunite it for being agree on one price?
The world doesn't work that way. But seriously, where does? Like what we're talking about is how companies work. And increasingly, CEOs are saying they will be hiring you going forward. So Yebin, you had your hand up. What were you going to say? No? If you're hiring somebody online, there is no requirement you have to pay them your company's or country's minimum wage. If they're in a different country, there's different minimum wages. And you could say some company like Samsung, they're working in Nepal or they're working in Kenya. So they could say they're hiring somebody for the Nepal office of Samsung. And that pays 50 cents an hour. Is that legal? In Kenya,
you delocate your activity if you do that.
Could you clarify? I didn't hear what you said.
You delocate your activity if you do that.
But it's online.
But it's not ethic.
Okay, what is the ethics of online? Where are you based? Or where are you staying currently? What is the law? The law usually doesn't say where you are currently. It says usually where is your home. And your home, I don't think you say it's in Korea.
No.
So are you supposed to be paid by Korean standards? Is that ethical? Or are you supposed to be paid on, where are you from? France wages? Or if Samsung is actually using your term paper for teaching something to staff in Nepal, is it ethical for Samsung to say they're hiring it for the project in Nepal? Which one is ethical?
To pay at the... J'ai putain pas les mots.
I didn't catch that. I speak a little bit of French, but I didn't catch that.
It was a not good word. I don't have the word in English. So I think you need to be paid by the country who hire you. So if you are hired by maybe Japan, you need to pay at the level of Japan people.
You do realize with online, Samsung has what, 500,000 employees and offices are almost in 200 countries. So Samsung could just get all of this online hiring done through the Samsung office in Nepal.
Maybe.
Right? So you might want to start thinking how you need to compete with other people online. And just by saying your introductory level or beginner level or advanced level, even the idea of university degrees. So many people are now realizing that a university degree does not make you better than somebody else. Somebody from Harvard is not better than somebody from Keimyung or some other university. So they are looking for examples of you doing it. That would help. Yebin Park, you have your hand up. By the way, the class is finished. I will continue to talk about this for a while, and I would love to help any of you with your term projects or weekly projects that you have that experience now, because you can't go back and change LinkedIn and say all of a sudden you have 20 years experience in order to get a job. But if you start doing something now, that counts towards your experience. So yes, make sure you're thinking of those things. You are competing with people in North America, Europe, Africa, South America, all over the world today. Many of them are applying for jobs now, even before they graduate. And so this Upwork company, $1 billion a year, and then Freelancer is growing faster than that one. Fiverr is another. What about how much do these companies get paid? Do you realize what was a traditional job agent? I used to work for Samsung. I also used to work for the United Nations. I worked with Applied Materials. When I was working for Applied Materials, an agent introduced me to the job. Do you know how much the agent got paid for me to get that job for the American Silicon Valley company? Any idea what a job agent gets paid?
You usually get paid from your salary. So in the first month, you will probably give them, I would say 10%.
Good guess.
10%.
Good guess. It's higher. Traditional job agents, recruiters, usually take more. Usually it's 30% of your year's salary. So if you're paid $100,000, the company will pay $30,000 or $33,000 to that agent that introduced you. That's what happened with me. I was paid more than $100,000 working with Applied Materials, plus they give stock options. So those things you need to start thinking about also. But with Fiverr, they're saying that agent introducing you to jobs, they only charge $5. Because it's systemized and anybody can use it at any time and it's all automatic, they're just taking $5 for each introduction. So that's one thing. And don't forget, after you get introduced to a client, you could do one project, but then when you're doing the project, you get to know them, they could hire you again a second time. Then you have to start thinking, does Fiverr get a $5 again if they hire you again? Or Does that company hire you privately and not pay? So what is the ethics? The idea of online outsourcing, it's big. You should learn about those details. Guru is another one. Outsourcely is another one. It's saying that there's more than 132 countries, people working for them. If you are competing with people from the other side of the world, make sure you're thinking about those details.